Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Brown if you're new here. Today we're going to be talking about The Shadow of the Gods. Beautiful cover, definitely a book out of my comfort zone. This is not a book that I would usually look twice at in the bookstore, but I saw it and I was like, let me give it a chance. Yeah, this is really cool. So this is based off of Norse mythology, which is completely new to me. I don't know much about it. It's like a Scandinavian belief system that was popular during the Viking Age, and I googled that right before this. So, but not knowing much about it, I was still able to understand everything. So like I said, this is a completed trilogy. So first it's The Shadow of the Gods, and then it is The Hunger of the Gods, and lastly it's The Fury of the Gods. So all very beautiful books. So this starts off after the Battle of the Gods. There's not much left of them other than their bones. There is a whole town made of one of the gods' skulls. So that just puts into perspective how huge they were. So just a little more about this book. We have thralls, in other words, they are slaves. Then we have, and I don't know how to pronounce it, I think it's Seether witches, but we're just gonna go with witches for now. They wield power. Then there are Gaudermen. These people use rune magic. And then lastly, we have the Tainted. So these are descendants of the gods, and there's pros and cons to being tainted. Number one pro is that you, in some cases, can wield certain abilities, but in most cases you have maybe more speed, strength, and endurance. But some of the cons to this are that you are looked down upon. You're derived from the gods that nearly destroyed the world, so people look at you with hate and disdain, and that is why some of the Tainted tend to be thralls, and like I said, those are slaves, so they use the Tainted as slaves. So this book follows 3 POVs, and when I saw that, it was a little overwhelming at first, but it follows Orca. She is a warrior. She is wife to Thorkel and mother to Brecca, and it follows their journey. I'm not going to go into much detail about that. I don't want to spoil it. Then it follows Varg. He is an escaped slave, and we follow his journey of trying to find answers to a traumatic event that happened in his life. And then we have Elvar. She's also a warrior, and she is a part of a group called the Battlegrim. So there is no romance in this book, but I didn't let that take away from it, because I really am a romance reader, which is why this is 100% out of my comfort zone. But the suspense in this book definitely made up for all of that. At the end of every chapter, I was like, I need to figure out what happens with their POV. So when I finished Orca's chapter and I went on to Varg, I was like, damn, I gotta read Varg's chapter and Elvar's chapter to figure out what happened with Orca. But then I realized that having to read through somebody's chapter, I was like, wait, this is a chapter that I was looking forward to in the first place. I just had forgotten that I was looking forward to their chapter. So every chapter, I just kept turning the pages because it always ended in a way that like you want to know more. So it just kept rolling, and I think the pacing of this book was really good. So you come to like the POVs pretty equally towards the end of the book. At first I really liked Orca, but then I was like, I really like Varg. His story and like his character building was like amazing to me. And then there's Elvar. If I had to rank them, I would say I loved Orca the most, and then Varg, and then Elvar. But there's just like the biggest plot twist at the end, and some people may have predicted it, and I'm usually, and I've said this before, I'm pretty good at predicting plot twists, but this is one that I just didn't see coming, and it really just, the way everything tied together in the end, like I was just, it like even like reading the last page, like I had to go and reread the chapter, because there are things that I miss, and especially throughout the book, like when things finally become intertwined, like it's just so like, it was really good, and so I'm really excited to read the next book. One thing that I do like about this author, this is definitely my first book by him, this is John Gwynne. One thing that I like about him is that when it comes to fantasy, it's like really intimidating. Number one, because of the size of the book, but number two is like with my other fantasy books, like I've read ACOTAR, Throne of Glass, other fantasy books have I read? I guess Shatter Me is technically fantasy. But what I wanted to say is that these fantasy books tend to, especially with epic fantasy, they introduce a lot of characters and it's like really hard to keep track of. But one thing about this author is that he very, like, in a very subtle way, he reintroduces these characters. Like, he'll introduce you to somebody and then like several chapters ahead he'll say like, oh, this person, like the witch or whatever, stuff like that. Like, you completely forget who they are, but then you're like, oh wait, okay, that's who that is. And so I really appreciate that, because that's another thing that's really intimidating about fantasy, is that they introduce so many people and I'm like, am I gonna be able to keep track of this? So definitely very thick books. The Shadow of the Gods was a little over, I think it was a little under 500 pages. The Hunger of the Gods is a little over 600, and then The Fury of the Gods is a little over 500. So very big books, very intimidating, but it really was a rewarding experience, and so I'm excited to have these books finished on my shelf. One thing that I really hated about the book, and I don't know if this is me being like nitpicky, is that the author says thought cage like 70 times, and I actually looked up, I'm not even exaggerating, I looked it up on my Kindle and it literally says 70. I don't know if you can see that, but on the top left, top right, it says 70. And if you don't know what a thought cage is, it's literally like your brain. Or it says, is going on in that thought cage of yours. A voice in my thought cage, squirm through his thought cage, your thought cage. It got really tiring. So I'm trying to decide if I'm gonna read this tonight. It took me almost a week to finish this. And since this one's bigger, I'm really hoping I can finish it before the end of February. Like I said, it's not a part of my actual TBR. The books that I have left in my TBR are 7 Days in June, Pestilence, and Insatiable. And because it's Black History Month, I really wanted to read 7 Days in June, so I might just end up reading this tonight. I don't know, but the thing is that when it comes to a big book in fantasy, you don't want to like forget things about it, like when you start the next book. Like, you kind of want to start the next book immediately, because the suspense that was built up was just so crazy. So we'll see how it goes, but definitely 5 stars. It might even be in my 6-star category. But yeah, I'm really excited. Thank you for watching. I'm not sure when the next video will be up, but I'm probably gonna try to do it as soon as possible. It might even be about the the Hunger of the Gods. So we will see. But yeah, thank you for watching. See you guys next time.